We're finishing our story of Ram today with the epic battle between Ram and Ravana. So the story of Ram's victory over Ravana offers several lessons deeply rooted in yoga philosophy. In modern times, we encounter similar struggles, whether in personal life, business, or even governance, where ego-driven individuals may seek success through manipulation or unethical means. However, history and experience show that integrity, perseverance, and adherence to ethical principles ultimately lead to lasting success. It encourages us to choose the path of righteousness even when faced with challenges, reaffirming that justice and truth always prevail in the long run. Patience in the meantime. Hi, I'm Kimberlyn. When you find yourself in need of inspiration or guided introspection, that's what I do. That's why I'm here. Whether it's related to your practice on the mat or out in the world, to me, it's all yoga. And by that I mean it's all part of living and learning to be. In other words, we are not here to be perfect or perform. And I am not here because I have it all figured out. On the contrary, I am here because I believe that no matter what we've accomplished, what we've endured, life is better when we come together authentically and compassionately to share our stories. Storytime is a virtual meeting space where we gather to connect. This journey of life is all about connection. And yoga is the practice of building and nurturing authentic connections. By sharing our stories, we share our hearts. We connect more deeply, more intimately with ourselves and each other. Whether it's live and in real time or anytime on your time, we're here to be together. So welcome to Storytime. I am truly so glad that you are here. Ravana fights dirty. Ravana's army came on horses and elephants. The monkeys and bears fought bravely and well, but they were no match for demon magic and deception. As night came on, the demons became more sneaky. After all, they were the creatures of darkness. They would appear to fall down dead, only to pop up in another place. They mocked the monkeys and chopped them up like vegetables. But still, the battle raged on. "We must conquer them once and for all," shouted Ravana. The demons tried one ruse after another. First, Ravana's son sent a magic arrow that covered Ram and Lakshman with a blanket of poisonous snakes. But Garuda, Lord Vishnu's companion eagle, untangled the coil mass and pulled the snakes off the warriors. Next, Ravana awoke his other brother, the enormous demon Kumbhakarna. Kumbhakarna had a ravenous appetite. He often slept for 6 months at a time, so that when he woke up, watch out, he'd be so hungry he could eat all of Ram's army for a snack. And that's actually what Ravana was hoping for, hoping that his brother would help him fight Ram and win. But like their other brother, Kumbhakarna was pious. He was devoted to Lord Shiva. He could see that Ravana was in the wrong, and he didn't want to fight Ram. Nevertheless, Ravana ordered him to go, and so, tossing a few cartloads of raw meat down his throat, he stomped into battle. Ram heard the giant's heavy footsteps in the distance and fitted his bow with Lord Shiva's special arrow. Kumbhakarna died instantly. Perhaps no will to actually fight. An entire regiment of monkeys scattered as his body crashed to the ground. Ravana raged and stormed around the palace when he heard the news. "Can no one rid me of Ram?" he cried. "Father, I will use my Brahmastra," said Indrajit, Ravana's son. "Great-grandfather Brahma gave it to me. My magic arrows can decimate an entire army in no time." Indrajit boasted as he headed to the battleground. So, a little background context. In ancient India, battles were fought only from sunrise to sunset. Brahmastra is a celestial weapon. Astra, referring to the celestial component, created and owned by the god Brahma, Brahmastra. It is considered one of the most destructive, powerful, and irresistible weapons mentioned in Hinduism. Brahmastra is described as a fiery weapon that creates a fierce fireball, blazing up with terrible flames and countless horrendous thunder flashes. When discharged, all nature, including trees, oceans, and animals, tremble. The sky surrounds with flame, glaciers melt, and mountains shatter with copious noise all around. When used, Brahmastra, which is person-centric, meaning specific, it can destroy a powerful enemy if they do not possess an alternate counter weapon. And Brahmastra, as the most powerful of all God-given weapons, did just what Indrajit claimed. With a shower of arrows, Brahmastra put a spell on the entire army. Ram, Lakshman, and all their soldiers fell into a deep trance, hovering at the edge of death. Only one of the entire army remained awake, the bear king, Jambavan. Jambavan was a son of Lord Brahma, so he was not affected by Indrajit's arrows. Jambavan was a healer who knew everything about the medicinal powers of herbs. He roused Hanuman from the spell and carefully described the herbs he needed to restore life and heal wounds, the remedy to counter Brahmastra. "Go quickly, Hanuman," he said. "The herbs only grow on Sanjeevani mountain in the foothills of the Himalayas." Hanuman leaped over the Indian Ocean to the foothills of the Himalayas in a single swift bound. He found Sanjeevani mountain covered with the dense forest of herbs. But it was quite dark by this time, and the plants all looked the same to Hanuman. "Triangular leaves, purple flowers," he muttered to himself. "I can't tell them apart." In a stroke of genius, perhaps, he began to dig at the base of the mountain. He dug until the mountain itself was loosened from the earth around it, and he found that he could pick up the whole mountain and hold it on the palm of his hand. "Aha! The entire mountain and all of its herbs wish to be of service to Ram," he said. And taking a deep breath, he rose up into the sky, and with the mountain resting on his palm, he zoomed back to Lanka. The fragrance of the medicinal herbs reached the island shores even before Hanuman did, stirring many soldiers back to life. I can only imagine that these herbs didn't work on the demons because of their dark spirits. Ram, who Brahma himself had already released from the spell, praised the strength and faithfulness of his animal friends and soldiers. Jambavan then prepared amazing concoctions from the chosen herbs and went from one soldier to the next, offering a dose here, a poultice there, or a few leaves to chew. Rows of wounded and dying soldiers awoke as if from sleep, without so much as a scratch left on their bodies. Jambavan and the revived soldiers picked up the dead demons and threw them into the ocean. The next morning, Indrajit, remember he's Ravana's son, was back on the battlefield. He had expected to spend the day victoriously counting up the dead. But instead, Lakshman stood before him. "Run," said Lakshman. "Run for your life." But Indrajit mocked him. "You can't fool me. You're just a ghost. You don't even know that you are already dead." In reply, Lakshman pulled out his bow. The arrow neatly sliced off Indrajit's head and carried it all the way to Ravana. "Father, set Sita free," the severed head moaned. "Your enemies are no mere mortals. Give up, Father." Ravana responded to his decapitated son, "Only after I avenge your death, my dearest son." Ravana roared as he rushed into battle. Scene 2. Ram battles Ravana. It was a long and bloody fight. One after another, Ram called upon the sacred weapons and aimed them at Ravana. One after another, he repeatedly cut off the demon's many heads and arms. But as soon as he cut off one head, another would spring up in its place. And in the blink of an eye, the demon's severed arms and legs grew back. Ravana seemed to have an infinite capacity to heal and regenerate himself. Ram fought all day without making any progress at all. After the battle had concluded for the day, Ram tossed and turned all night, consumed with this challenge, wondering how he could destroy this seemingly immortal being. Help came just as the first rays of the dawn touched the sands, when the wise sage Agastya appeared before Ram. Even the gods need divine assistance when they take human form, Agastya said. Under the early morning sky, sage Agastya taught Ram special prayers for the sun god. Chant these mantras. Don't give up. Evil is not immortal, he said. After performing his salutations to the sun, meaning after Ram had completed his morning yoga practice, Ram headed back to the battlefield with renewed confidence. All through the day, he used his heavenly weapons and called to Ravana to surrender. But Ravana refused to surrender. "I am immortal," he shouted, and continued to sprout new heads and limbs like weeds. Finally, in the long light of the afternoon, Ram knew that it was time to finish this battle. He aimed one last arrow straight into Ravana's belly button, piercing the very center of the demon's spirit. With a look of shock and astonishment, Ravana fell. This time, he did not get up again. The mightiest of all demons was dead, slain by a man who was also a god, Lord Vishnu in human form. Cries of victory to Ram, the demon slayer, rose from every corner of the battlefield. The monkeys leaped into the air and danced. The surviving demons gladly surrendered, promising to give up their wicked ways forever. Ram's 14-year exile was over at last. Good Prince Vibhishana took over the rule of Lanka from his slain demon brother Ravana, and Ram, Sita, and Lakshman returned to Ayodhya, where Ram took his rightful place on the throne. His long and prosperous rule is still remembered in India as the golden age of Indian civilization. And I'm going to guess that the mountain was returned as well. so that it can continue to grow and produce these magical Ayurvedic herbs. But perhaps that's part of the story on how these herbs got distributed beyond the Himalayan mountains. Could be. So as we conclude this great epic with these final 2 chapters, Ravana's dirty tactics and Ram's eventual victory, balance is restored and good overcomes evil. Ram's victory over Ravana in the Ramayana remains profoundly relevant today, offering lessons in ethics, leadership, and resilience. Ravana, despite his immense power and intellect, was consumed by ego and resorted to deceitful tactics, believing himself invincible. Yet Ram's unwavering commitment to righteousness, dharma, patience, and strategic wisdom ultimately led to his triumph. In modern times, we encounter similar struggles, whether in personal life, business, or even governance, where ego-driven individuals may seek success through manipulation or unethical means. However, history and experience show that integrity, perseverance, and adherence to ethical principles ultimately lead to lasting success. Ram's victory reminds us that true strength lies in virtue, self-discipline, and fairness, while arrogance and deceit lead to downfall. It encourages us to choose the path of righteousness, even when faced with challenges, reaffirming that justice and truth always prevail in the long run. Patience in the meantime. So the story of Ram's victory over Ravana offers several lessons deeply rooted in yoga philosophy, emphasizing self-discipline, ethical living, and inner transformation. I'll talk more about these lessons next time in our coaches chat as we wrap up this chapter, this story of Ram. But to give you a little peek, the first lesson we'll talk about is Amkara, the mastery over the ego and the path of self-discipline through tapas. Secondly, I'll talk about our commitment, our adherence to the Dharma, the Dharmic path. And this is the practice of yamas, or ethical restraints. And this is what helps temper and keep at bay that ego drive. And thirdly, we'll talk about victory of inner balance, the role of sattva, this balance of purity and clarity, this alignment that allows for ease. These lessons remind us that yoga is not just about physical postures, but is a way of being, a way of life that guides us toward self-mastery, ethical conduct, and inner peace, inner balance. So in conclusion, living our Dharma requires consistent effort, much like a dedicated yoga practice that cultivates awareness, discipline, and inner strength through daily practice, whether it's meditation, self-inquiry, or ethical actions. We refine our ability to act with wisdom and integrity, remaining aligned with our higher purpose, our Dharma. Just as Ram's unwavering commitment to righteousness led to victory, Sita's recovery, our own daily practice empowers us to navigate life's challenges with clarity, resilience, and grace. Now, as I've shared before, I share these stories to expand our minds and our hearts, to grow in authentic alignment, and to help us move freely through the tasks of each day and the seasons of life, to connect our modern life with the truth from ancient teachings. Every day is an opportunity to know ourselves better through the practice and study. Connection is key to receiving and benefiting from that invitation. My invitation to you is just that. Let's connect. I want to hear from you. How are you living your yoga? When I hear from you, I use your questions and examples to expand and personalize these messages so they support you in living well. So email me, come on in to the studio, or join our app for tons of free content to support your inspired living. Whether you visit us in person or online, whether it's for one-on-one or a group experience, we want to meet you in the practice. We want to support you in living your life's work. So let us close with a blessing. May you breathe deeply and move freely, labor lovingly, and live vibrantly. May you be well. Namaste.